How does your throat know to put the food in one way and the air in another?
I have no idea.
Okay.
If you know the answer to this, letters@sickboypodcast.com.
And actually, it's
how
funny
does a
because-
throat know?
I messed it up
How
this
does
morning.
your throat know?
When you
How
mess
does
it
the
up,
throat know?
Into my lungs.
yeah.
Give me a piece of food right now. That thing's going in my stomach, not my lungs. How does that like magnets?
It's got to be
How
it's
do
got
they
to
work,
be
you know?
something to do with an air versus a solid or a liquid. It's got to just know.
It's got to know.
I'm racking my brain on this one. Guys, I don't fucking know how it works. All right, no cap. This is this is straight up for the glizzy guzzlers out there that are going back to school.
Catch these hands.
Because I know you glizzies are out there prepping, getting your agendas ready, buying up all your number 2 pencils and dossiers. And also, big shout out to all of our high school listeners out there. I know we probably have like at least 2. You're going into school. Shit's going to be real. You know, COVID's not gone. But the one thing that I do love about kids keeping it real is that pranks, high school pranks, did not die with COVID.
Oh, that's good.
And here, just a little bit of prep. This is from a local, I don't know where, somewhere in the U.S., sort of town hall school meeting that has to do with like the public coming in to talking about school coming back and all the procedures. And after the floor was done with all the things that they needed to talk about, the floor was opened up to anybody and everyone to come up and speak and say anything that they wanted to. To do that, you had to write down your name, submit your name to come up to the mic.
Did Chad and JT
That's
come
exactly what I was thinking.
This is not one of their videos. This is a younger buck who is following in their footsteps.
Very a la Chad.
Here we
I'm
go.
stoked.
You guys work for us in this environment. You answer to us, and I'm asking that you do not pass this policy in Virginia.
Thank you so
in
much,
this
Ms.
county.
Thomas. We do appreciate you. Phil McCracken.
He's
Phil
now,
McCracken.
he's now calling up the names that have signed up to come speak. Phil McCracken.
Souk Mahidic. Luke Mahidic. Ophilia McHock. Ophilia McHock. Eileen Dover.
He has no idea.
Eileen Dover. Don Keedic.
Oh my God.
Keedic.
Don Keedic.
Oh my God.
Wayne Kerr.
This one's my favorite.
Wayne Kerr.
Going across the pond for that
Fuck.
one.
Oh god
That's
damn.
so
You
great.
know that some fucking like 16-year-old was watching that live, just pissing his pants.
Oh my God.
Don
Yes.
Keedic.
That's so amazing.
What's funny is the first time I listened to that, the Don Keedic one, I was like, Don Keedic. I missed that one. And then I had to say it like 5 times out loud. I went, oh, Donkey Dick.
Guys, how
Keedic.
unenthusiastic are municipal politicians?
They're dead.
I
Totally
feel like
dead.
they're never excited about anything.
That's what made Parks and Rec so good.
Yeah.
You know, it took something that was so bland and boring and really just like
Just
spruced it up.
Just insert Amy Poehler into the
Yeah,
mix,
so
and
good.
like boom, you've got life.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was a good way to kick things off with Feel Good Friday. Now that I'm back in town, back in the same studio,
Back in the studio.
and also we're back from little vacay.
Yes.
We took some time off. Last Feel Good Friday, we released a Patreon exclusive stream that you could have only watched at the time, and actually you still can only watch on our Patreon. We just released the audio, so YouTube. Well, hello, we're glad to see you again. And as we are back, I figured this was a nice way to have a little laugh to open things up. And now I'm going to throw to something quite interesting. to keep things on the Feel Good Friday feels. This is from Vice. Man, Lauren, you put this in Slack and I was like, this is the fucking content that I'm here for. World's fastest accelerating roller coaster suspended because riders kept breaking their bones.
Oh,
Whoa.
Yeah. So,
I want to know about this because I was on the formerly world's fastest accelerating roller coaster.
Where was this?
In Abu Dhabi at Ferrari World.
oh, whoa.
It just fucking. I used to run events there, so I went there all the time, and I've ridden it a bunch of times, and it just like takes off so fast out of the gate. It's
from sitting still?
from sitting still.
Do you remember how fast it went?
I can't remember exactly, but it was like.
probably only slightly slower than the new world's fastest.
You know what's funny though is it actually probably felt similar to driving a Tesla. Like when you step on the gas in a Tesla,
It's insane.
yeah, it's crazy.
Well, this roller coaster out of Tokyo is called the Dudodampa. We got a little bit of a camera issue here. Oh no, we don't. Dudodampa. Here's a quick little intro
Sorry,
to
what's
the
the first syllable? The first two syllables of it?
D-O-D-O-N-P-A.
Doo-doo?
Dudodampa.
Oh, okay.
Lauren just found the Ferrari World one, 149 miles an hour.
All right.
Wow.
Check this one out.
Acceleration of any roller coaster in the world. To put it into perspective, Dododampa launches riders from 0 to 180 kilometers per hour in only 1.56 seconds.
Whoa.
Oh my
This
god.
subjects the guests to up to 3.3 Gs of force upon launch, more than that experienced by astronauts on takeoff.
So what is it? So what
Over
are they?
180
What are they
miles
breaking?
per hour.
Are they breaking ribs?
Well, the fastest accelerating roller coaster in the world has been suspended until further notice after multiple customers reported broken bones from the ride. Since December, at least 6 riders sustained bone fractures after riding Dudodampa, a roller coaster that goes at super death speed in the country's popular Fuji Q Highland Park.
Hold on. Wait, why is it called super death speed?
Well, it's like why are really hot wings called suicide or death wings? You know, it's like it's gonna fuck you up.
Is it?
It's called super death speed because people are cracking their fucking spines on it.
This reminds me, Taylor, you remember when...
Sounds like Nathan Fielder's behind this.
My first thought is, I can't believe that somebody made something where after a few test runs, people
Christ,
clearly...
Sorry, guys.
This is a
I'm-
podcast, dude.
I
You're
am-
fucking up the audio.
Fucking Jesus,
Hey, if
dude.
you're gonna cough like that,
Put it-
leave the
put it-
room,
yeah,
please.
put it on mute.
Sorry, I'm sick.
The thing that I find really remarkable, though, is that they probably ran a couple test runs, and I am assuming that like the first broken bones happened very like close to the beginning of the test. Like it's not like all of a sudden it
Not
started
at all.
broken bones. Okay, well, so let me just hypothesize for a minute before you tell us the real news.
Yes.
But my thing is, I know what it feels like to build something and realize that once my engineering feat is complete, that it's very dangerous, and realize, oh, we immediately need to remove this. Because Taylor, you'll remember this vividly. We once
Vividly.
built a massive jump at the bottom of a sledding hill, and we went the night before, right after the snowstorm, and we sprayed the whole hill down with water, and we iced it.
Young engineers in the making.
So we went to the hill the next morning, and our friend Scott was there already, and he had gone down the hill, and he was like, guys, don't do it. It's way too dangerous. So we were like, okay, we like tested it out, kind of went from halfway up the hill. It was very dangerous. So
Yeah.
we gave Taylor this big black sled, and we sent him down the hill from the top.
Oh my God.
He didn't know. And
Didn't know
he-
it was dangerous? Like, did
we
you
didn't
show
know how
up
fast he
late?
was going to
But
go.
even if I
Yes.
did, would have done it.
Yeah. And he did this like backflip in the air and landed on his neck. It was gnarly. But then these two other guys showed up.
Shoulder.
These two other guys showed up on a GT, and they doubled up on the GT.
Oh no.
And the guy on the back is sitting, he's riding down the hill, and he tries to push off in the air because they're going so fast. They hit this jump, they go flying through there. And he
no.
tries to like push off, but his leg gets stuck in like the hook in the back part of the GT.
Oh no.
Dude,
The
it was
guy on
all-
the GT lands on his
Oh.
the bottom half of his leg and just immediately
Dude,
shatters his ankle.
It was the Hall of Meat type video that I send you that you don't watch.
Yeah, and we had to cover him in a blanket and call the ambulance to him. It was pretty bad.
The thing that makes me the most sad about that story is that cell phones weren't around.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
no one was filming, unfortunately.
I digress, but the point is that immediately after building that thing, I would have been like, this is dangerous. We probably shouldn't do it. One person broke their ankle and we destroyed the ramp.
Have you guys seen the speaking of things in Japan that go insanely fast? Have you guys seen any videos on the maglev trains?
Oh, that's
yeah,
like their speed train.
Yeah.
They
They like levitate.
So when I was in
yeah.
Japan a couple years ago now, which is right before COVID, we took a bullet train. I think the fastest we
Bullet
went was
train,
like
that's- yeah.
300 an hour, something like that. Like when you're on big long stretches. And
Oh, they don't do that on turns?
They don't do it on turns. No, they slow down for turns. I have a hair in my mouth.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a mustache hair.
Christ.
Fuck, that's gross. But maglev trains, they go. So, dude, magnetic levitation. They're literally not. So they start on wheels. They pick up speed, and once they get to 150 or 170 kilometers an hour, or something like that, the wheels lift, and then the train starts to magnetically levitate over the track. So there's no friction with the track.
Oh, my God.
So
And
just
they
goes
go,
so
they,
fast.
and the record speed in testing is 603 kilometers an hour.
Oh, my
Whoa.
God.
Whoa.
And so they can take the trip from, I think it was Osaka to Tokyo, which is supposed to be, I think, 4 hours, and it brings it to 2 hours.
Wow.
It's
Yeah, it's like
crazy.
it's like an airplane, basically.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
flying really low to the ground.
Well, the Dudo Dumpa, which goes over 180 miles per hour at super death speed, four of them said they broke their neck or back, a spokesperson for the park told Vice World News. The incidents alerted to authorities on August 17th are baffling officials. So this thing was built in 2001. The ride goes from 0 to 180 kilometers per hour. 180. I think that video said 180 miles per hour, right?
It's like
I think
kilometers
it's like
per hour.
kilometers.
Oh, it said,
Yeah.
my bad.
The article about Ferrari World said miles per hour for 149 miles per hour, but I think that is top speed and it's not accelerating at the
Got
same
you.
speed.
Okay, so 0 to 180 in 1.56 seconds, making it the fastest accelerating roller coaster in the world. But the park said it was the first time riders broke their bones on the ride since it went into operation 2 decades ago. Now, the reason for this is that in 2017, the ride was modified to bring up the top speed from 172 to 180. But the park said there were no reports of serious injuries, including bone fractures, until December. So
it seems like so December of this year.
yeah,
I think that people during COVID lockdown just weren't exercising enough
Right.
or drinking enough milk perhaps and not getting enough calcium.
yeah, right.
It's
And I
probably
think
a
they just
milk.
went back weaker, more fragile humans.
Yeah, it's probably a milk correlation. That's what I was thinking too.
and we all know how milk is. There's a milk shortage in Japan right now.
Yeah.
You guys know that, right?
And everybody responds so well to dairy.
Yeah. There were no technical issues found upon initial investigation, according to Fuji Q Highland. The ride's manufacturing company, Sensei Technologies, apologized to the injured customers, but said it also didn't know what caused the injuries. Roller coaster rides that result in severe injury are rare. The last roller coaster related death in the country was reported in 2007 when an axle on a car broke during a ride in Expo Land in Osaka and sent the roller coaster crashing into a guardrail. Obviously, that would be bad. Naoya Miyasato, an architecture professor from Nihon University who studies roller coaster designs, what a cool job, said accidents that result in broken bones are unheard of. Quote, roller coaster designs must all abide by government-approved standards, so the fact that there are multiple similar accidents is unusual. Although the Japanese government hasn't found the reason for these injuries, Miyasato said it could likely be an issue with the roller coaster's rapid acceleration.
I
Also correlating to the human species becoming more soft. over time.
I smell an insurance scam.
Well,
I feel like this is a group of people who were like, hey, this is the fastest accelerating roller coaster. What if we just say
Yeah, we
That
get off
we
the
all
ride
have
and just
whiplash.
just put our arm in the gate and then snap it.
Yeah. They just have a friend go, here, just reach over. The friend just reaches over and goes,
Yeah.
oh, fuck.
Accidentally kills them.
So again, this ride accelerates at more than 3 times the force of gravity, which is comparable to the G-force experienced by astronauts during a rocket launch.
And F1 drivers.
Quote, if a rider can't withstand the acceleration, then they sustain injury, which could be what's happening here. But in addition to the coaster's rate of acceleration, Masato said that the way riders sit may be an issue. So this was interesting. If they detected no serious concerns with the actual ride, then it could be the way that people were sitting. But if a person was sitting incorrectly, say with space between their backs and the seat, it's the responsibility of the park's employees to check that their seat's position. So if someone's just like, oh, I'm so excited for this ride. And like, hey, Taylor, I'm really excited for this ride. And then you get slammed back by like, whatever, 8 inches.
8 Gs.
At 3 Gs, 8 inches, slamming you back like and snap your back. How wild would that be?
Or is it a bunch of mouth breathing slouchers that are being snapped into correct posture?
It's actually because of work from home, everybody has rounded shoulders and they're all sitting forward.
Yeah.
But you know what? They could have perhaps even when they upped the acceleration speed in 2017, maybe they actually just slid the seats forward a little bit so that there was just naturally a gap between the backrest and the person where the person sat.
Yeah.
So it just jarred them back because it was like,
but it's
more
great
exciting
press.
for that.
It's great press. It's like the episode of Nathan For You when they're like, yo, the way that you're going to drum up business is by breaking somebody's bones on your ride. So like, let's get a lawsuit. Let's get a lawsuit.
Well, you're not wrong. Like I read this and I went,
I want to go.
I gotta go. I gotta get on Doodoo Dumpa.
Yeah, this is actually the new season of Nathan For You is coming out, and this is
It's
his
a teaser.
thing.
Yeah, we're gonna find out a year from now that this was all his doing.
Much like most high-speed roller coasters, Doodoo Dumpa requires riders to lean back against their seat and wear over-the-shoulder restraints, keeping as little space between their back and the backrest. According to Minichi Shimbum, one of the riders who reported an injury said she may have been sitting forward during the ride. Statistics from the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions said this: approximately 385 million guests safely enjoyed 1.7 billion rides at 410 North American fixed site facilities. The chance of being seriously injured on a fixed site ride at a U.S. amusement park is 1 in 15.5 million rides taken.
Wow.
So it is very, very rare for this to happen. Now, in prepping for this, that was the only like decent footage that I could find of the Doodoo Dumpa. But I was looking for like other footage of other roller coaster incidences, and they're hard to find. However, I did find one roller coaster accident that I'm gonna put out NSFL warning here. Not safe for life. So I found footage of a really gnarly roller coaster accident that might get us pulled off YouTube because this is like rotten.com shit.
Folks, go to YouTube.
And I wasn't sure if it'd be okay to show it on the podcast.
Really? You had that.
Really bad.
Where did you find it actually?
I will tell you off.
Is it a live leak?
I'll tell you off mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You found it on 8chan.
All right. Are you guys cool to watch this?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that when you were bringing it up. Now I'm like, I don't know. Do I want to see it?
Right.
Dude,
Did anyone
watched
die?
Mom's House Live, dude.
All 16 people died.
What?
Are you for real?
You can see them going down here.
Whoa!
They got so much air.
Whoa! Oh my god!
And you can see them. They go right into the forest.
Whoa! They went like 500 meters.
Incredible.
Why did you make us watch such an atrocity?
Oh my god!
Did you guys ever play Roller Coaster Tycoon? That was all I ever did on Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I did play Roller Coaster Tycoon a little bit at school.
For the folks that were just listening, I didn't show any death. I showed death via Roller Coaster Tycoon.
It was VR death.
How good was that music?
There was a lot of 8-bit blood there.
That's pretty fun.
That was a big explosion.
It was.
Did I get you guys? That was a good
You
one.
did,
right?
yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
Because I expected you to.
That's one of my
Do
favorite.
that.
That's one of my favorites. pulling one of
I've
those.
actually been on a roller coaster when it malfunctioned. But
Really?
everyone was
Oh my God,
fine. Yeah,
really?
it was at Six Flags in Dallas. I don't remember that much about it because it was kind of chill. It was like a roller coaster that it would get to the end of a track and then stop and then reverse.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of mechanical work like tends to malfunction. And so I think I remember I was facing up because there were some people that were facing fully just to the ground
Oh,
for a
God.
few minutes. And
Wow.
but I think my only like complaint at the time was I was like, I'm thirsty. It was Texas in like July.
Oh,
so it was
yeah.
like, it's really hot.
hot.
And
See,
I'm thirsty.
I don't really. I'm not afraid of like big theme park roller coasters like Six Flags and I don't know, Busch Gardens or Disney World or whatever. I'm not afraid of those because I feel like they're very well maintained. I'm afraid
Oh
of.
yeah, I just read it right there.
Yeah.
One in 15.5 million
I
chances of
I
getting fucked
wonder
up.
what that stat is for like.
Traveling fairs.
Yes.
Well,
oh my god.
Did you notice that the big part in these sentences was the chance of being seriously injured on a fixed site ride is 1 in 15.5.
Yeah. Dude, because there was a like it was like spinning teacups or something
here.
down here in Hellth.
Guy broke his fucking collarbone.
Yeah, he got
On a
smashed into a
spinning
tree
teacup?
branch. It was
Slammed
not,
into a tree.
It was one of those big things that like spins around.
So you got
and it-
launched out
No.
of it?
No, they set it up too
They
close.
set
to
up
the
too close to a
trees.
tree.
What?
The thing was spinning and it went kakakoosh.
Which is crazy that they just set it up in the wrong
Yeah.
spot, and that's what caused.
obviously didn't test it.
And hey, look,
Yeah.
not to shit on carnies because I know we have a lot of carnies that listen to the podcast, but
We do have a
While they're on the
large-
road.
but
we do have a large
I've
carny
never
population.
met a carny that wasn't completely off this planet, wasted at 9 a.m.
They're all drunk
You know
all
what's
the time.
you know what's wild though is that the scariest moment of my entire life was being on
Oh yeah,
the traveling fair
You've told this story.
on the zipper
Yeah,
because I was spinning around and I was like, I as I described it, I was weightless for what felt like way too long, and I
Yeah.
was like, the ride detached. But like also to be fair, it was very rusty. It was a pretty janky
it's
ride.
a fair
so-
fear to have.
rusty.
Yeah.
At one
Rusty.
of those, at one of those things.
Rusty's a good descriptor for most carnies I've met too.
Listen,
They're
I've
very,
got-
they're very rusty.
I hear that metal that has rust. It's like it has a reinforcing type of property to it, where like
See, I've gone skydiving
Stronger.
in a plane that had duct tape in it. Like there was parts being duct taped together, and that was
I
less
trust-
scary.
I trust duct
that
tape.
means that I was also in that plane.
You
and
were.
I didn't
I
notice
trust
the
duct
duct tape.
Yeah, John and I saw it. It was
That's scary.
Anyway.
All right, well that was all real fun. Let's move into some more so interesting stuff. COVID related. This is from Global. Majority of Canadians support mandatory vaccines. Say COVID-19 and also say COVID-19 a top election issue.
Mandatory vaccine, like you have to get it.
Yeah, majority of Canadians support mandatory vaccines, and majority of Canadians also say that COVID-19 a top election issue. As mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations for travelers in some industries becomes a point of contention amid the federal election campaign, a new poll suggests a strong majority of Canadians support the issue, regardless of their political affiliation. Thought that was a little interesting tag at the end there. The IPSOS, is that what it is? Or is it the
Ipsos?
LPSOS?
Ipsos.
Ipsos. The Ipsos poll, I don't even know what the fuck is Ipsos?
It's a firm that conducts polling.
Gotcha.
Like
Yeah.
Gallup.
Yeah.
Right. They call me and I always just say, nope, click. You know what I'm saying? The Ipsos poll conducted exclusively for Global News. Sorry, CBC. Found that 80% or more of those surveyed support mandatory vaccines for healthcare workers, teachers, and public servants. Just over 80% said requiring proof of vaccination for train or air travel was also a good idea. Quote, what the data is showing is that if people think that there's a public debate among Canadians about how one should be dealing with COVID-19 when it comes to vaccines, there really is no debate, said Daryl Bricker, CEO of Ipsos Public Affairs. People think that vaccines should be ubiquitous and think that they should be directed, even mandatory. The Liberal government announced right before the election was called last weekend that vaccines will be mandatory for federal workers and domestic travelers, a stance that party leader Justin Trudeau, I've heard of him, who's running for his third term as prime minister. What is it? What is he, a fucking dictator? Doubled down on Wednesday.
Canadian politician.
Canadian politics.
4 more years. 4 more years.
Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole has said he would not require any workers to be vaccinated, accusing Trudeau of using the issue as a political wedge to divide Canadians. Yet even among likely conservative voters who responded to the Ipsos poll, about 3/4 supported mandatory vaccinations.
Wait, who did you say
See,
said that?
The
Ipsos.
the issue.
Who's Aaron O'Toole?
Aaron O'Toole.
He's the conservative
I
party
don't
leader.
think I've ever heard of him.
O'Toole rules.
There's a really funny commercial that I think it's an Albertan commercial, like political attack ad,
Mhm.
and it's a truck commercial.
Yeah,
But Aaron O'Toole is the truck. And they're
What?
like, here comes the new model, Aaron O'Toole. It's like falling off at the
Yeah.
hinges, and it's like an old rusted truck that's driving around. And every time it hits a bump, something falls off the truck, and they're like, anyway, it's really funny. But the issue about the vaccine thing is that it's misleading. It's misleading language in the way that, like, still, and again, agree or disagree, it's not making vaccines mandatory for anybody in terms of, like, on an individual basis. It's saying if you work for this company,
certain elements,
or you work in this industry,
Federal
or if you're
government,
or if you're traveling,
if you work for the federal government,
or you work for the federal government,
which is-
and make no mistake, it's an ultimatum for your livelihood for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which, like, there's I think that there's a debate to be had there whether that should be used or not. But it's not mandatory vaccines.
Yeah.
Like, from an individual level, you got to get it.
I don't know
Right.
though, dude. It's kind of like the illusion of choice, though.
Totally, it
So-
is. Yeah, totally.
So
100%.
it is kind of mandatory.
The poll
I know
found-
it's not,
Because at the end
but
of the
it kind
day,
is.
the and the argument would be that you can't, and I don't think legally you can make somebody on an individual level, divorced from, like, your work or
just as
whatever,
a citizen.
as a citizen,
Yeah.
to go, you need to put this,
Yeah.
because that would I'm sure that would violate something in the Charter of Human
Yeah,
of
Yeah.
Rights
but
and Freedoms.
there are some jobs that require a driver's license
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and stuff like that you
Yeah.
have to keep up or have in the first place before you get hired.
Yeah.
So
I think I generally support that idea that
Do you think the flu shot is mandatory for healthcare workers?
I am not sure.
Listeners, if you know the answer to that, I know there's
Yeah.
outside. I mean, I know we have a massive Carney listenership, but
Right.
outside of that, there's a couple of doctors that listen. If you know anything about that, wherever you are,
I wouldn't be
letters
surprised.
at sickboypodcast.com. If it is mandatory for healthcare workers to get the flu shot in your
also
workplace.
tend to support the mandatory vaccinations, but I also feel weird about it. I feel weird about, like, the government telling people,
yeah.
even though I understand
Yeah.
right now that it's in the best interest of people.
Because
I tend to think of, like, well, what could happen
Totally.
down the road, or what
because
could
it's
be next?
always about that. It's like, and this is the thing, when you hear of a case that goes to the Supreme Court or the High Court in Canada, like, it's never just about the thing.
Yeah.
It's about the legal precedent
Mm.
that gets set for the thing
I
20
believe,
years from now.
Yeah, I believe the term they use is the potential slippery slope.
Yeah, that's the technical world,
Yeah.
where legal precedent is a little bit, like street slang.
Yeah.
But
The poll
thing
found
that-
support for mandatory vaccines for both healthcare workers and teachers was also high regardless of the province, never dipping below 75% in Quebec for teachers and reaching as high as 90% in the Atlantic provinces for healthcare workers.
Wow.
That's good.
Support
That's great.
dipped slightly for vaccine passports to be used to enter public spaces like restaurants, but not by much. 72% of all respondents accepted the idea, including 67% of conservative voters, which Bricker says is still a sign of strong support.
Man, it's the thing that bums me out the most about this, though, is that it has to be done. It, like, in our country right now,
Yeah.
we have enough doses of the vaccine where everybody could be fully vaccinated right now if they just decided that they wanted to
Yeah.
go get their vaccines. And so having to make it mandate that everybody has to have it is just a bummer because the only reason they have to do that is because not everybody
people
does.
just aren't going to do it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that makes me sad.
He also went on to say, speaking of fucking getting called by polls.
Are you getting
Answer it.
Are you getting a prank call? Right? Yeah,
What?
let's get this on the pod.
Hello.
That's a fucking call center.
Hello. Hello.
Dude.
I do agree that vaccines should be mandatory. Yes.
I thought that was going to be someone that was like, hello,
What was that?
you owe on your CRA account and
Yeah.
the police are outside your door.
One thing that he said, which I thought was really interesting, he said, quote, "It's pretty hard to get 72% of Canadians to agree on anything."
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
True. And most notably, the leader of the country.
Yeah, when you look at the whole series of other issues that we looked at in this survey, you see a lot of division, a lot of disagreement on the issues. But on vaccines, vaccine passports, not a lot of division. So just an interesting little piece there.
I think it kind of highlights how loud people can be that are against something.
Right.
You know, like
Absolutely.
when you're against the status quo, you know, like if you went around and asked people, so you have the poll, but then if you asked people what they thought the results of the poll were, I'm sure they'd be way more down the middle. Like people's perception of how many people are out there saying that they don't want the mandatory vaccines in industries or, you know, in federally regulated industries, which I believe is like the overarching umbrella of what they said.
What do you guys think makes Canada different from the United States in that? Because like really, I mean, we have a lot of there's a lot of the same qualities to life here as there are in the United States.
I think that in general, there's for sure more of a general like belief and trust in our government than there is in the US.
I think from a political sense, I think it's a politically driven difference between the two countries, that we are by and large more socialist in our government policies and the way that everything's run, in the government programs that we have. Universal healthcare is a very socialist program. So in countries that lean more towards socialism, there's a much higher degree of like reverence for the state and also community oriented thinking. Whereas in the US, much more individualistic thinking.
Do you think that would change here if our population was the same as the US's?
I think that
The size, you mean?
Yeah, like what's the population in Canada?
Sorry,
it's like
38
one-
million.
Yeah.
And the population in the US is like almost 400 million.
It's like
350, yeah.
10 times the population. I
Yeah.
will say in the US that the government, like, they're very anti-regulation, and like they do, like you're saying, like we're more collectivist and they're more individualistic. But because of that, like that means that like their government and the way that it operates, like both government and politics, like they like reject things like any sort of regulation. And what that kind of trickles down to is that like if you have money, you can like buy speech, and that undermines democracy and like the people's ability to make decisions for themselves. So that way, like people that are very, very wealthy or corporations are able to have an outsized influence on like the lived material reality of people's lives. Anyway,
Good point.
Karl Marx has left my body.
It's crazy though how those nationalist values can influence in such a large way how people think about the world. Because and even just in I think too that it probably has to do somewhat with the two-party system versus like a three or more party system, because
Definitely.
when you're in a two-party system, it's like us against them always.
Me and you. It's,
Every issue is politically divided.
yeah,
But
down the
in-
middle.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in Canada, there's a lot of. I mean, we just elected a conservative government here in Nova Scotia, but our conservative government provincially is more like a federally liberal government in the sense that it's socially progressive, fiscally conservative, but even the policy was like fairly.
There's
And
not a
he's-
lot of difference between them and the liberals.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have a party called the Progressive Conservatives.
Right.
Like we have shades. We have
Yeah.
parties that represent shades of conservatism, and we have parties that represent shades of liberalism.
Yeah.
Instead of liberal conservative.
Which
And
is
in fact, yeah, like our premier during the campaign actively, or our new premier, like he actively distanced himself from the federal conservatives.
Yeah,
Like he made
yeah,
a huge
yeah.
point of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, why I think he got elected here.
Yeah.
Because I don't think if he was attaching himself to the federal conservatives that it would have happened.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
other thing that
it's
I
not like
find,
he's gonna run out and do a bunch of blow with the Ford brother there.
It's funny, you never know.
I think he was into
But
meth.
the other thing that's really
Right,
interesting
right.
is that I find that I don't understand why political parties have to sort of represent one specific view on everything. Like,
Yeah.
you elect it's more specifically in the States, like you're either left leaning or right leaning, and you're that for everything. You have to vote a party that's going to
Yeah.
basically take that stance on.
I think it's
everything that
popular.
comes
Like
in.
populism
Yeah.
has grown so much. I mean, dude, we're becoming a political.
You know what
podcast right
bores
now,
the
but-
fuck out of me? That. Let's move on to something a little bit more interesting. And
I like
cute.
talking about
this
that
is so
stuff.
cute. Therapy dogs. Yes. Helping with COVID-19 vaccinations in Montreal.
Guys, this is literally like the scene in fucking Anchorman where they're delivering the news and they're like, and a man was shot in Hyde Park last night, and now a squirrel that can water ski.
So, this is coming from the Montreal Gazette. It's all about therapy dogs helping people with their vaccinations in Montreal. This woman, Divine Nsembimana, was afraid to get her COVID-19 vaccine. So much so that when she arrived at a vaccination center on Thursday evening, the staff sensed her discomfort. But a dog, Bidule, and a zoo therapist sprang into action. And you can see Bidule here and the
Yes.
therapist. Oh, bloody. Reassuring and distancing the young woman until she was, or distracting the young woman until she was inoculated without even realizing it. At the vaccination clinic in Montreal's LaSalle borough, the local health authority has been using pet therapy to help people who are afraid of needles or concerned about side effects. Nsambimana got vaccinated while she still had Bidule on her lap. Nurses asked her if she was ready, then informed her that they had already administered the shot. Nsambimana burst out laughing. After being inoculated, she said she was afraid of the second dose because she had heard the side effects were likely to be more intense than it was with the first. But while petting the dog, she said she forgot all of her fears. Quote, "I was more occupied with the dog. I wasn't even focused on the vaccine anymore," she said. "It really helped."
That's it.
The CIUSSS.
What?
This is going to be fun.
Is that three S's?
It's three S's.
Yeah.
The CIUSSS de l'Ouest de Ile de Montreal. Let me say that again. The CIUSSS de l'Ouest de Ile de Montreal
Oh my God! Another dig at the French community.
uses pet therapy and
West
vaccination
Island.
clinics to help those who are yet to be vaccinated over fears of needles or side effects. The project is carried out with the help of Corporation des Zoothérapeutes du Québec. Here's another image of Bidule talking to a young man and his father. The dogs can't work more than 3 hours a day, explained Anne-Sophie Rousseau, a pet therapist who spent the afternoon with a dog named Theo before Bidule took over that evening.
Guys, I'm concerned about this though. I feel like that is slave labor.
Oh,
Like,
come
are
on. They love
are
it.
they
Dogs
paying-
Dogs love
Labor.
Are
that
they
shit.
paying those dogs?
You know what, Brian? I think you're right.
They're working for 3 hours a day.
I mean,
no pay.
They are getting paid in pets and treats,
Are
dude.
they
And
getting
that is
free vaccinations at their vet appointments?
I hope
later
so.
that year.
treats are their money. So are the pets.
I
They're
think
getting-
Donut agrees with you though,
Yeah, he
Brian.
just
He's
came
like
over, he
taking
was
a strong
wagging
sit
his
next
tail.
to you. Yeah.
Donut. Oh
Um,
my God, I want to eat your.
Donut would be a great therapy
Oh,
dog
yes,
for
you would.
vaccinations.
Yes, you would.
Oh my God, you're so cute, buddy.
He's got
Look
the-
at you.
He's got the best little kisses.
Oh, he's so sweet.
Jared, have you been able to get any work done?
No. One of the people to use the service was Elizabeth Barker, a 15-year-old. She didn't enjoy her first COVID-19 vaccination at school.
Did you say Elizabeth Barker?
Haha, hey-o.
That's a great dog. That's a great dog pun.
Quote, "He's a baby. He's not even a year old yet," said Sylvain Gauthier, kneeling in front of the teenager who melted when Bidule approached her. Quote, it's perfectly normal to have fears, Gontier added. Barker was inoculated while feeding the dog some kibble. There you go. That's where they're getting paid. She felt the needle, she said, but shortly afterward, but never looked away from Bidule. Quote, you made my night, she told the pet therapist as her father looked on reassuringly. 10 out of 10, she said. Oh my God, Donut. Look how fucking sweet.
If you're not watching this on YouTube, you're really missing out.
Don't tell them what we're looking at, but you can see it on YouTube right now. Pet therapy is not just putting an animal on a person's lap, Gontier explained afterwards. It's more about using the animal's connection with that person, he added, to establish communication and a connection. Quote, the animal serves as a great facilitator to introduce a new person, and Sophie Rousseau added, and it's a motivator. Sometimes the child is ready to do something for the dog that he wouldn't have done for me. The CIUSSSSSSS began offering zoo therapy last June when high school students began receiving their first dose. Given the success of the experiment, they repeated it at the end of August and opened it up to everyone. Now, having said that, very excited to announce this on the show. Sick Boy exclusive. If you haven't gotten your second dose here in Halifax, you can go to the Spry Field Vaccination Outreach Clinic for people that have needle anxiety on Thursday, September 9th. So that's next week, next Thursday, from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. This is so fucking Halifax local for the podcast. But they're going to have a therapy dog and handlers there from the St. John Ambulance who will help create a calming, supportive environment. So if you want to go get your second dose with a puppy to pet, I mean, fuck, I wish I'd waited.
To be fair, if we're doing it here, there's probably local clinics everywhere. Wherever you are, there's probably a clinic doing a therapy dog thing. So check it out.
There is a on the same topic of dogs and like, you know, not in vaccine, but dogs and health and illness and like the connection of dogs with humans. There is a relatively new season of Explained on Netflix.
Nice.
And
love that
one
show.
of the episodes is dogs and like, why do humans connect so intensely with dogs? And so it kind of goes like through the history and everything like that. But one of the
Is
examples,
it simply because of the domestication?
a lot of it has to do with the domestication.
Because I was going to say, like, if we didn't domesticate dogs, but we did domesticate foxes all those years ago,
yeah, there was something specific about dogs where it was like there has been domestication efforts with other animals and you don't get the same product.
like cats.
But right, yeah, because cats, no matter how often no matter how long you domesticate them, they stay the spawn of Satan.
Yes,
Y'all are
we all know this.
hate
We all know this.
But one of the examples that they used in the Explained episode was this family, and I think they had two or more children. Two of their children
Were dogs?
have autism.
Oh.
And they have quite severe form of autism. And they were, I think it was their daughter. They had been recommended by I think a social worker that they give up their daughter.
Whoa. Because of how severe her autism was.
Because she was very violent. Like whatever environmental things, like social environmental things would make her freak out and become violent. And the social worker, I think it was a social worker, had recommended, hey, like honestly, this is a lost cause. You should kind of cut your ties, and like it would make your life a lot better.
What a fucking
I mean, I
awful thing to say.
I could be. I don't want to.
This is making me sad.
I don't want to say that as if I'm. I mean, that was the gist of it. I don't know exactly. What you said.
we only do facts on this show.
But it
it
definitely was intense. They basically told her to give her up, and they ended up getting. Then they saw somebody else, and they recommended getting a like a very trained therapy dog.
Yeah,
and
a card. Like go and get the card in the mail.
Go on the internet. Just
fill out that
form on
form.
the internet. Yeah. And they got this therapy dog, and it totally changed their children's lives, and like the aspects of this little girl with autism like completely changed, and they are the dog makes them be able to do all these things socially that they never were able to do, and they have the
Wow.
dog at school. Oh my god, it's so fucking
What a
cute.
good boy. Good boy.
You say good boy,
Yes.
and he's like, I know.
Yes,
he
good
immediately looks
boy.
up. Well, that's nice. Dogs. We all love dogs, and if you don't love dogs, unsubscribe. Moving on to our very, very fun, haven't done this a little while because we've been away, segment of What the Hell? This is an interesting one because this doesn't have to do with like a case study or not like a specific person case study, but this is an interesting piece of research that I found in the New York Times with a crazy article title that is "Breathing Through the Rectum Saves Oxygen-Starved Mice and Pigs."
What?
All right, Dr. Caleb Kelly, a gastroenterology fellow at Yale University, was recently asked to review a paper about mammals receiving life-saving oxygen through their anuses. And he was quoted saying, "I laughed, to be honest," he said. "I thought it was a joke."
Could you imagine being on a site and some guy's like stuck, like there's an earthquake and some guy's stuck under some rubble and he's like yelling inside. He's like, "I'm running out of air. I can't breathe." And just his backside is sticking out. And somebody's like, "Quick, blow him up like a balloon. It'll help."
Yeah,
Breathe,
sir.
breathe through your ass.
Breathe through your asshole. That would work.
Loosen up, sir. Loosen up. Let the tube in. Let it in. It seems like a no-brainer that bottoms are not for breathing, but the authors of a new study published Friday in the journal Med are perfectly serious. They showed that when some mice or pigs are dangerously deprived of air, an enema of oxygen-carrying liquid can rescue them.
Whoa.
Quote, "It actually turns out it could be a feasible approach," said Dr. Kelly, who wrote a commentary accompanying the new paper. Dr. Takanori Takabe of the Tokyo Medical and Dental University and the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. This guy's just flying all over the fucking world, and he's covering every base
He might
possible.
be spreading himself a little thin.
Yeah, right.
No pun intended.
Well, with the levitating magnet train, it's quite quick.
Yeah, Dr. Takabe of the Tokyo Medical and Dental University and the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center was motivated to study this unusual idea by his father's struggle with lung disease. That sentence is fucking wild. Okay, so he was motivated to study rectum breathing oxygen by his father's struggle with lung disease. Mechanical ventilators can keep patients alive when their lungs are failing, but these tools aren't always available and they can run out, as the COVID-19 pandemic has shown. And although he may be a ways off from studying the idea in human patients, Dr. Takabe said that, quote, "We clearly need different strategies to help out patients with severe lung failure."
Guys, I can't help but think about how, like
This is going to happen to me.
when you
I
watch
can
though,
fucking tell.
I
You know-
wanna just
you know when you
Jared
watch-
breathe out his ass.
like a sci-fi movie from like 20 to 30 years ago, and it's
Yeah.
just like they just really got it wrong. Like they just didn't know what to expect in the future. I think that we have no idea what to expect in the future, and one of those aspects of that is that scuba diving, we've been thinking about the problem in the completely wrong way. Space travel, like the space helmets,
Yeah.
we don't need to cover our faces. We don't need to cover our mouths. I mean, we can close them.
You just duct tape our nose is closed and our
Right.
mouth closed and shove
And
something up our ass.
start breathing through our butts.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It would be
100%.
because it would be so much less straining on you, wouldn't it? If you just had some device that was inserted in your butthole that helped you breathe.
I mean, it sounds super logical.
So your bad breath would just be farts?
yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
His research had focused on using stem cells in dishes to grow miniature organs such as lungs. Then he decided to try something totally different. He took a tube, rammed it up his ass, and used a balloon blower upper to fill him up.
It does not say that.
No, it doesn't. Something totally different. Instead of growing new organs, why not repurpose the organs that mammals, including people, already have? Turning to the animal kingdom for inspiration, Dr. Takabe learned that many fish and other creatures have evolved multitasking organs.
Yeah, dude, they're called gills, not assholes. Like what?
No,
I
no.
feel like he was looking in the wrong areas.
Actually, yes. For example, the fish called loaches use their gills to take oxygen from the water, as most fish do. But They can also pop their heads above the surface for a gulp of air. Loaches don't have lungs, so the air they swallow travels through their digestive tract where their intestines absorb the oxygen that they need.
Whoa.
That's fucking wild.
That is crazy.
Right?
So their intestines are effectively lungs.
Yeah. Their intestines double as both,
Guys,
what do you call it? Organs for digestion and for respiration.
Breathing, yeah.
how does your throat know to put the food in one way and the air in another?
I have no idea.
Okay.
If you know the answer to this, letters at sickboypodcast.com.
And actually, it's
how
funny
does a
because-
throat know?
I messed it up
How
this
does
morning.
your throat know?
Isn't it frustrating when you
How
mess
does
it
the
up?
throat know?
Isn't it frustrating when you mess up and you
crazy.
you don't know how you messed up because like something your throat didn't know for
Guys,
that one time?
Like into my lungs.
Yeah.
Give me a piece of food right now. That thing's going in my stomach, not my lungs. How does that like magnets?
It's got to be
How
it's
do
got
they
to be
work,
something to do with an air versus a solid or a liquid. It's got to just know.
It's got to know.
I'm racking my brain on this one. Guys, I don't fucking know how it works. So Dr. Takepi and his co-authors set out to see if a mammal's intestines could also absorb oxygen. They started by simply pumping oxygen gas up the rectums of anesthetized, oxygen-deprived mice. Dude, this is those fucking poor mice. Man, you know what's crazy is like the amount of times on this show where we talk about medical advancements and we inherently end up going to the research, and the research is always like, so these mice were like strapped up on a fucking crucifix and we were ramming shit up their ass. Like I'm always just like, fuck these.
We
fucking
talk
poor
about
mice.
animal torture every week when you
Oh,
never
God.
say animal torture.
Guys, we have to have Hannah from our Patreon community on to
yeah.
talk about the ethical treatment of mice because
Yeah,
she's worked in that.
She's
Yeah.
killing them every fucking day.
No, she's not.
Fucking put-
we should
putting
do
their-
it. We should do a
putting their hearts
Patreon
Yeah.
live show with
That'd be-
her and
that's a
talk
great
about that.
idea.
That'd be really fun.
Though the procedure helped the mice survive longer, it worked best when researchers, oh my God, come on. It worked better when researchers scraped the intestinal walls to thin it, making this method not very appealing for treating sick human patients.
Oh my God.
Like, all right, sir, look, we're out of ventilators and you are fucked. COVID has fucked you. The only way we can save you is if we shove this knife up your ass and scrape your intestinal walls and then take it out and put a fucking tube up there.
However, it's deeply experimental.
Imagine, Jeremy, you're just gonna lose even more of
You know
your
what?
intestine.
I'm cool. I'll check out long before I'll take any of this shit.
Imagine you have to walk around.
I'm good.
They remove your lungs. You don't even have lungs anymore, but you've got a scuba tank on your back
With a
a
tube up
hose
your
up your
ass.
butt.
That's the cure to CF right there. Next, the scientists tried delivering oxygen in liquid form. They added oxygen to a perfluorochemical, a compound that, quote, that has an incredible capacity to absorb gases, Dr. Kelly said. Perfluorochemicals were even tested as a kind of artificial blood in early 2000s. Well, that's fucking wild. The scientists squirted this oxygen The scientists squirted this oxygen-packed liquid into the rectums of mice and pigs. They found that when the animals were dangerously deprived of oxygen, the procedure boosted their blood oxygen and their moods.
What are they doing? Just going to a farm and
God.
and finding all these animals?
No, dude,
that's such a diverse selection of
they're
animals.
breeding
dude.
these fucking animals.
This
for
is
research.
the most graphic that a study on rats has ever been. Usually they're like, oh, we had this hypothesis and we tested it on mice and rats, and
And then your brain goes, oh, I guess if you had to do that, it probably would have looked like this. That's sad. I don't want to think about that. And this, they're like, we were just
strapped them up, scraped them.
we were squirting liquid up their ass. Yeah.
I feel so bad for animals right now. I'm gonna go buy something from Lush afterwards because they don't do any animal
Yeah.
testing.
Good idea.
So after they squirted this
Brought to you
oxygen-packed
by
liquid
Lush.
into the rectums, the mice started walking around again, and the pale skin of the anesthetized pig started turning a healthy pink. Dr. Takepi said that he didn't expect the procedure to work as well as it did. Quote, they are completely recovering from the very, very severe hypoxia, he said. That was really astonishing to me. A mammal doesn't use its colon for breathing. Duh. But anyone who has used a suppository knows that this thin-walled organ is adept at filtering substances into the body. Also, if you've ever butt chugged a single beer, woo, baby, very fast track to the hospital.
Have
to
you-
get your
Are you
stomach.
Have
saying
you
you
butt chugged a
have?
beer?
Where was I here?
No, wait, have
let's
you
see.
actually though?
Yeah, we need to get to the bottom of this.
Suppository.
Have you-
thin-walled organs? Yes, here we go. So, what separates the environment from inside the body is a single layer of cells, Dr. Kelly said. Furthermore, he said, it's normal for gastrointestinal tracts to absorb
Moving
gases.
right along.
Doctors can even diagnose illnesses by detecting gases from gut-dwelling bacteria on a person's breath. Like a sick human gasping for air, fish sometimes find themselves in dire need of oxygen, said Jonathan Mark Wilson, a biologist at Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo, Canada. I'll see you next week, Waterloo. I'm coming up to fucking speak for all the freshmen. I guess I don't say that now. The first
people.
years.
Broad.
Fresh folks.
The fresh folks at Wilfrid Laurier University. For example, they may live in a pond or a puddle that is overcrowded with other animals. That's why so many species have evolved ways to breathe air at the surface, as loaches do, Dr. Wilson said. Dr. Wilson doesn't know of any animal that literally inhales air through their assholes. But turtles spend the winter sitting on the bottom of a pond, never coming up for air, and survive by taking oxygen from the water via their rear ends, mimicking such a process in mammals. Makes a lot of sense, he says. Dr. Tekepi sees an urgent need for better ways to get oxygen to critically ill patients. Quote, I am really keen on pursuing the clinical translation potentials as fast as possible, he said. Man, I don't think anybody else is in a rush for this shit.
Yeah, let me die.
Toward that end, he's just begun a startup in Japan called EVA Therapeutics, Inc. EVA stands for Eternal Ventilation via Anus, the name of his technique.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. I didn't make that up.
I don't get what.
Oh,
so
God.
what? I don't understand
Tushy
what uses.
Therapeutics.
Holy
This would
shit,
have-
dude. He said that the method's safety in humans needed to be carefully evaluated, but that he was hoping to begin clinical trials as early as next year.
Well, let's check up on it in a year's time and see where we are as a human species with breathing through our buttholes.
I cannot wait to follow up on this. Dr. Kelly, the guy that they asked to review this and comment on it, he went on to say that while the concept is fascinating, he's not sure if he's ready for prime time yet. Quote, it's kind of a startling idea to use part of the human anatomy for gas exchange, he said. Still, he added, the weirdness doesn't mean we should dismiss it, like trepanning. It really should be the data, he said, rather than our visceral reactions to the concept that guide us. And then he goes on to
Very
say,
true.
drilling holes in our head isn't such a bad idea after all.
I honestly,
Oh my
I
God.
don't think this is a new thing. I'm almost positive this is an Ayurvedic thing.
Oh,
It's got to be
almost certainly.
breathing through your
Well,
butthole.
dude, I think that is a thing, right? That was a read. There was a thing. There's a thing.
I
in
feel
the,
like there is
I think there-
legitimately
I
something.
think there's a thing in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika that talks about breathing through reed grass.
Up your butt.
You like putting reed grass up your butt and
Yeah.
breathing through the reed grass. I could be wrong.
I remember hearing something like
I
that
think
and
that there's-
laughing pretty hard.
If anybody, for context, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika is in yoga. There's like a few texts that are like these ancient old texts. Hatha Yoga Pradipika is one of them, but it's the one that has like, it has a section where it talks about all these like powers that and practices that yogis should do, and there are
There's some wild ones.
some really
Yeah.
really interesting things
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
One of them is to take your colon out. We all know we're big fans of anal prolapse here at Sick Boy Podcast.
Stop.
So you take
I'm already out.
your colon out, like you take your digestive tract out, and you're supposed to clean it in the Ganges.
That sounds safe.
And because the Ganges are super clean,
Well, I was
especially in
gonna
Rishikesh.
say it's like out of the frying pan into the fire.
Right, yeah.
Ooh.
You know, with all the
Yeah.
dead bodies floating around in there, it's all
Jesus.
just really clean water.
Hey man, I actually really saw that.
So you're, I know you did, and so yeah, you just clean them off. That's one of many cool.
How are you supposed to get your colon out though?
You just
Just get your
You just
get your homie to reach up in there and
nope. You
pull
do
it
no
on
no no
out.
nope. This is an individual practice. You do it by yourself. You go down. You kind of You gotta hunch over a little bit.
You gotta
Yeah.
push.
You
You gotta
just gotta
push
like, yeah,
too
You're
hard.
just gonna bend over at the waist. Reach. You reach from the front, up and down and around.
And it's
you
usually
go
like
in.
a knees up
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
chest.
knees up in your chest, and then you
Yes.
just kind of you reach up and you try to. It's a bit of a fisting thing, and then you
fuck.
kind of and you just grab it. And
Yeah.
God.
I mean,
No,
getting it
no,
out is
no.
actually quite easy. It's putting
Put it
back
back in.
that's-
bring it back
Sorry.
in. Yeah. It's like
Especially after it's been cleaned.
yeah. It's like have you ever tried to put a tent in a tent bag?
Yeah.
See, that to me though, that to me is crazier than self-trepanation.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
with
guess
you.
so. Yeah.
I'm with
don't
you on
know.
that.
Personally.
I'm with you on that 100%.
Guys, would you rather clean your own organ? Your would you rather self prolapse and then clean your, or would you rather drill a hole? In
I'd
your
rather
head?
drill a hole in my head.
Same.
Yep.
Much easier
Yeah.
logistically to do.
Speaking of trepanation,
Logistically, yes.
really, I'm just gonna plug another podcast here, which we don't typically do, but Stuff You Should Know, podcast that's been around forever. They actually
OG,
like
before podcast,
one of the
before
biggest-
anybody knew what a fucking podcast.
probably
was.
one of the biggest, probably if not the biggest podcast in the world. They have well over 1,000 episodes, and they've long surpassed 1 billion downloads. Anyway, neither here nor there. They just put out a new episode today as we record this, and it's how trepanation works.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and it's
Crazy.
fascinating. It's really a whole bunch of shit that I was really hoping that I would wish I knew before we recorded with the
we should do?
guest yesterday.
We should go back and
It's great.
retitle our last episode on trepanation the same as their
yes,
title.
You're right.
We
100%.
should 100%
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that.
And just put Stuff You Should Know in quotations next to it.
Yeah, that's what that's called content hacking.
Yeah.
It's just SEO, some search engine optimization.
Gaming the algorithm.
Well, I think it's time to get this puppy home so I can feed him, which means that is it for this week, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate the heck out of all of you. And if you're tuning in from Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are in the comments there. Your ability to comment on that, whatever the fuck that is. And then if you're listening on Spotify, hit the follow button. Also very important. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, all you glizzy guzzies out there, say something in the comments. Let us know what you think. How cute is my dog, right? Leave a comment about
Especially if you made it this far in the video, guys.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Leave a comment.
Yep. Super cute. And if you want to let us know your thoughts, send us some mails. Tell us a story. You can do that. Go to letters@sickboypodcast or send an email to letters@sickboypodcast.com. You can also slippity slide into the DMs, real slippity slip like. And if you've ever been trapped in an avalanche or been stuck somewhere where you're below ground and the only thing that's available to the outside world is your asshole and you're able to breathe through it, let us know, because we'd really love to know.
Would love to hear
We'd
that.
really love to know that, and you could probably get in touch with the doctor's name that Jeremy pronounced 5 different times through that story, and I'm sure that he'd love to study you.
That technique is called periscoping, actually.
Periscoping,
Ooh.
yes.
Incredible.
Brian's favorite dead app. And if you want to be a guest on the show, you can go to sickboypodcast.com/contact, fill out the guest form.
Didn't we have a few letters come
We
in?
do.
Yeah, we did. So we had a letter and a DM. So this letter is from someone that we are keeping anonymous for reasons I'll become clear. So remember how we asked folks if they're vaccine hesitant to reach out and let us know why.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a letter from someone,
Nice.
and yeah. So this is what our anonymous friend wrote, and they like their name was on it, but I was like, we'll keep you anonymous,
Sure.
just in case. Hello, everyone. I listened to your most recent episode where you asked for people who are or were vaccine hesitant to write in and give their perspective. Well, here I am. I will start off by saying, yes, I am from Alberta.
Duh.
But
Knew
I-
it.
Coulda guessed.
But I hope that doesn't affect your opinion of me, Brian.
No, it doesn't. I love you.
I was one of those people that was vaccine hesitant. At first, it was because I was pregnant. And the reason was because there was no research on the vaccine on pregnant people specifically.
Dude, that's legit.
Yeah, no pregnant or lactating people were included in the trials. Because I was carrying a baby and wanted to do everything I possibly could to protect her, I was a little hesitant because the vaccine was so new and I didn't know what it would do to her. Yes, I know COVID would also be detrimental to her, but I thought I was doing everything I could to not get COVID. Being pregnant is already so stressful, I didn't know what the right decision was. Secondly, the recommendations and messaging regarding the vaccine were so contradictory, which is true. The CDC recommends not mixing vaccines, while in Canada, the messaging is that you can. The mRNA vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna. Before that, they recommended mixing any vaccine. So, for example, my mom got AZ, then Pfizer. Also, they rolled out AstraZeneca so quickly and told people to get it ASAP that it was safe, then backtracked and stopped administering it due to safety issues. Who's to say they won't do that now with Pfizer or Moderna? I'm nervous that we will all get vaccinated because that's what they were telling us to do, and then weeks or months later, they would stop administering due to emerging safety issues. Because the messaging was so mixed, what were we supposed to believe? How do we trust what the government says? Ultimately, I decided to get the vaccine with emerging research that antibodies could be passed through breast milk. For me, the benefits outweighed the risk. I am my baby's closest contact, so I wanted to protect her and give her antibodies to protect her and didn't want to risk getting COVID. It still made me nervous. I should caveat that now. The CDC and all OBGYN professional bodies are recommending the vaccine during pregnancy, and research is now showing that protection is passed on to the baby. I hope this helps you understand where us vaccine hesitant people are coming from, but I hope you don't hate me too much because I did end up getting the vaccine. A bunch of smiley faces.
Now, see, that person is way too rational. That's a totally rational approach on that. I think when we were talking about that, if I can recall the conversation, I was really hoping that somebody would write us that was like a look into it kind of person. Like somebody
too.
who's like,
Have you guys seen this documentary? It's called Plandemic. I just want to like forward it to you.
See, that is like, that's somebody who's going.
That's someone who took their time.
They took their time and they went, I'm in this gray area because I'm pregnant and and there's lack of actual research.
Yes.
Not the research that's, fucking circulated on
look into it research.
Look into it research.
So we'll have to cut this part out. But one thing that so we emailed this person. We said, hey, can we read your thing on the show? And they were like, yes, you can. But actually, hold on. Let me just revise what I said. That whole thing about them getting the vaccine in the end, they tagged that on after we asked them,
right?
Because they were like, because the actual real final sentence was, it's a fucking hoax. Bill Gates is out to get you. 5G is real, and we were like, yeah, this is great. And then when they sent this new version, I was like, hey, can we read your original one? And they were like, no, please don't. And also, please, and at first they were like, yeah, tell them. And she was like, my name's Louise.
Yeah.
But this time they were like, and they, actually, you know what? Just say this instead, and don't say my name. So anyway, whatever. It was Louise who wrote that.
And the original sign off was where we go one, we go all.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so make
17.
sure. So I'll make sure to cut that out.
Yeah,
because, we definitely don't want this person to hear that I just revealed all that information.
I do want to also echo that fact that like that is a totally fair. That is vaccine hesitancy in its finest form. You're allowed to be
finest form. That's
you're
right.
allowed to be hesitant. Look into it. And when you realize the truth, then get it.
And so like, but to that point, there's people that are still hesitant.
Yes.
Even with all the data that still exists out there. And this person is not one of those people right now. And congratulations. I hope you're feeling good about your choice about getting the vaccine. I think it's great. And also thanks for sending us that message, even though I'm sure that there was like maybe a bit of hesitancy there in sending it.
Yeah.
Sick boy email hesitant, because it's one of those things where it's like, I know if I was in that position, I would feel, especially in the climate that we're in now, I would feel a bit hesitant to reveal that information to like certain people that I hang out with, So kudos to you, listener. Thank you for writing that. We really do appreciate it.
And we're not. And when we were roasting people whatever week that was, 2 weeks ago,
like 4 weeks in a row.
2 weeks ago, yeah. We're not talking about rational thinkers. We're talking about people who are just on the fucking moon that are
correct.
Wait, so if your sentiments are shared at all with our friend who sent that letter in, like we're we're not that those things that we're saying aren't directed towards you. You're a good rational thing.
But again, I'll cut this part out. But again, like just
where we go,
just so you're clear.
Where we go one week.
Just so you're clear. That's
17,
that's not what originally was said.
17.
Anyway, they
Look
backtrack.
Yeah, look into it.
What else we got, Lo?
Yes, we also got a DM from Laura on Instagram, and it was about our talk about triage when we were talking about the man that died here in Nova Scotia in triage. So she wrote, regarding triage, it is designed to be a 2-minute or less process to determine how fast someone needs to be seen. If that patient waited for, and she's a nurse, by the way, I should say, she's not just like a person. She's Louise. She's got
not a muggle.
credentials.
She got credentials.
So she wrote, if that patient waited for that long before even being triaged, it would seem that the hospital in question needs more nursing staff and capability to be able to triage multiple individuals at the same time if triaging them sequentially is creating such a wait. There aren't any formal systems designed to triage patients waiting to be triaged. However, there are some informal systems depending on where you go. For example, a patient who is standing up on their own in line for triage might wait while someone who comes in by ambulance jumps the queue for triage since they are presumably more ill. But this is informal and would vary, I presume, from hospital to hospital. Also, ER nurses have additional training on top of their RN training. Most hospitals require a 2 years of ER experience before a nurse can triage. And then they also need to do the CTAS course. I don't know what that stands for. Let me look at it.
Triage something course.
CTAS?
Let's guess.
The
Compliance for triage.
Oh, the Canadian Triage and Acuity Scale.
Yes,
Was that
that's
in
what I was
what-
thinking.
That's
that
not
was
what I
in
was
the
going to say.
article, right?
I was going to guess something else.
I
I was
know.
going to
So
say
somebody has to
something,
work in the ER.
way
You
different.
have to be an ER nurse for 2 years before you can triage.
Yeah, which I
Yeah.
think makes sense.
Yeah.
That's legit.
Cool. Well,
That's my hot take.
hey, listen, don't be sick boy, email hesitant, reach out and send us your letters. And we'll just end this by saying thank you so much to the people who make this happen. Lauren Sankey, Taylor McGilvery, Jeremy Saunders. This is my favorite part of the week. Jeff Lonis, thanks for being our manager. Rich O'Coin, thanks for the theme music. And to everybody else who makes this show go on, thank you. We love you. Especially you
my
listeners.
favorite part of the week is when the show ends and we get to turn the AC back on.
And patrons.
That is it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sick Boy.